Did you hear anything when it took place? Did you hear the crash?
Yes, I did. In terms of anything beforehand, though, no. I mean, I couldn't tell if the plane was in distress or anything like that, but certainly when it hit, there was a large explosion, and again, you had smoke and debris coming up the other side as well.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. Been talking to Jim Friedl, eyewitness who witnessed the crash from Hoboken. Thank you, Jim, very much for giving us what you saw and heard. Again, just a few minutes ago, apparently a large plane, according to that eyewitness, Jim Friedl, vantage point from Hoboken, that as you look at the picture from our chopper now arriving at the scene, Jim Friedl in Hoboken said it appeared to bank sharply and smash directly, perhaps purposefully, into, oh my goodness,
oh God,
there's another one.
Oh
my goodness, there's another one.
This seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness, now it's obvious, I think, that there's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
oh my God.
My goodness. A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center. Obviously, suicide, terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. What we have been fearing.
Chapter 5. Anybody on?
What we have been fearing for the longest time here apparently has come to pass. A disastrous terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, both towers, planes smashing into each one. I understand we've reestablished contact with Dick Oliver. Dick is on the phone. Yeah, Dick.
Jim, yes, just moments ago, as you know, another vehicle, some kind of an aircraft, crashed into the World Trade Center. This is no accident. This is no bomb from inside. This is, as you put it, a terrorist attack. There's no two ways about it.
Dick, what vantage point are you at now?
We're still at Park Row. People are streaming down, heading away from the World Trade Center. Having heard the second blast, people are running, some of them running now. Emergency vehicles still heading towards the World Trade Center. Now, thick black smoke. I don't know if you've got a picture. We're trying to take some pictures here for you. Black smoke coming out of the second explosion. The first explosion seems to have calmed down somewhat.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, there's gray smoke coming out of there, meaning that the water is being put on it. People continue to stream past us here on Park Row, as well as emergency vehicles. There's an ambulance, both a fire vehicle and a police vehicle.
My goodness, Ollie, if I can only begin to imagine the carnage that has taken place. We see an ember falling from the top of the floor of the Empire State Building. It's tough to look at, but let's look at it once again. After a plane crashed into the side of the World Trade Center, then another one, as our cameras were focused on the building, crashed into the other tower.
Jim, is now a very serious fire on the south tower of the World Trade Center. This is about, I would estimate, about the 60th or perhaps the 70th floor of the tower, right on the corner, the northeast corner of the south tower, flames shooting out of the building. We have absolutely no reports of who was in there, but you've got to believe it being around the 9 o'clock hour that people were just sitting down for a day's work in those buildings.
Okay.
Jim, I was just thinking that if I'm not mistaken, remember several years ago, Mayor Giuliani moved the emergency management office to one of the higher, to the 30th floor or around that area of one of the towers of the World Trade Center, and that's indeed the brain of all the emergency management activity. And now,
I believe, though, that's in one of the other towers. Ollie, can you talk to that? Ollie, can you hear me?
I hear you, Jim.
Dave brought up the point that the mayor's emergency management office, the so-called bunker, is in one of the towers of the World Trade Center, but I don't believe it's one of the two top ones.
No, it's not. It's about the 30th floor. It is not up there. And by the way, for those who are wondering about the structure itself, both towers appear to be structurally sound, and not only small pieces of debris are circulating in the air around where the explosions occurred. The buildings themselves seem to be intact as far as their structure is concerned. There's been talk over the years about the threat of terrorism making the buildings fall down onto the streets. But I can reassure everybody that they seem to be holding up fairly well while efforts are going forward to fight the fires and whatever happened in those two towers.
Now we can see smoke emanating from many of the floors of the two towers. We see to the left of your picture there smoke coming out of the floors above where the plane crashed into, I believe that's the North Tower that we're looking at there.
Thousands of people gathered where I am here at City Hall Park in front of City Hall, just watching what's going on. It's very difficult to, they come by and they say, what happened? And you just got to say something hit the building and then something hit both buildings.
Well, we saw clearly, we didn't see the first one, but we saw clearly that a plane deliberately crashed into one of the upper floors of the World Trade Center. That was the second plane. So two planes crashed into the upper floors of each of the World Trade Center towers. And I understand now that Port Authority headquarters are in one of those buildings somewhere near that location.
Jim, I
yes?
don't know whether we've confirmed that this was an aircraft, or to be more specific, some people said they...
We've been watching live coverage from our affiliate in New York City, WNYW New York, of this unimaginably horrible situation. Now, apparently, a terrorist attack against both of the World Trade Center Twin Towers in the Wall Street area of New York City.
If you are just joining us, what you're seeing here, the live pictures there from New York. At first, one plane crashed into a building, very unclear as to what happened. Was it an accident? And then at about 9:03, a second plane. Do we have that tape to roll showing the second plane hitting the second tower? Let's take a look.
And there you see it. There you see it. And as witnesses have described, this seemed to be very deliberate. They described the first plane going into the first of the towers as having to bank and make a turn directly in. But, Lark, as you look at that video, it appears the plane flew directly in.
Unmistakable, right. And here we're going to show it to you one more time. You can see this plane slamming into that second tower there. And it is important to note that the World Trade Center was the target of a terrorist attack some years ago, and the trials went on for years. Much contention, an international story. And here now, again, apparent deliberate attack. Of course, we don't know who's behind it. As of yet, we've seen no claim of responsibility. We expect that will become later. Are we back now to the live picture? We're going to show one more time.
We're going to look at the tape one more time, and let's try to concentrate on the size of the plane, because obviously that is a very significant, if you're looking at those towers, are 110 stories each. That is a very large aircraft. Now, someone described it, one of the witnesses described it as not a prop plane, a twin-engine prop plane, but perhaps some sort of jet-propelled aircraft, a 727. Would be enormously significant if someone was able in some way to get their hands on a 727 or a similar sized commercial aircraft and then crash it in.
And then crash into a building there. And we do want to point out that that second attack happened just about 9:03, the first one shortly before 9 a.m. We're going to go back to live pictures now. We're going to rejoin the live coverage in New York City. Obviously, this is a disaster of major proportions. We don't have any word yet about casualties. So let's listen into the live coverage.
Day when we're holding a primary election in New York City.
Now, I would imagine...
Ollie?
Jim, what you're saying could be a drone aircraft. That's an aircraft that's guided electronically to its target without having a pilot. Now, that is a possibility as well. In the meantime, I can tell you that flames are shooting out of both towers now, the heaviest being on the south tower, the northeast corner of the south tower of the World Trade Center, but there's a considerable blaze going on the North Tower as well.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any way of finding out exactly what is located on those upper floors. You'd like to just cross your fingers and pray to God that maybe there weren't a lot of people up there at
State
that
office
time.
buildings and, of course, lots of commercial office buildings on those spaces as well. I know during the last terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. My son was in the building, and he told stories of groping down through these staircases
Yes.
for some 50 floors before he, thank God, got out safely.
In fact, the governor has an office in the World Trade Center as well. There is one thing. After the bombing of the World Trade Center in the 90s, I do know that there were major efforts to have disaster drills, to have a preparedness plan in the event of an awful tragedy like this. But one has to wonder how, with two gigantic skyscrapers burning, the fire department and emergency services can handle both in that confined space without a tremendous
Sometimes, no
death
matter
toll.
how much you set in place, how much you try to prepare for, until it actually...
Oh my goodness.
Oh, God.
There's another one. Oh my goodness, there's another
This
one.
seems to be on purpose.
Oh my goodness,
Another plane?
now it's obvious, I think, that there's a second plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I think we have a terrorist act of proportions that we cannot begin to imagine at this juncture.
Oh, my God.
My goodness. A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center. Obviously, suicide, terrorist attack
Absolutely.
on the
Look at
World
the
Trade Center.
buildings.
To that, eyewitness Jim Friedl, vantage point from Hoboken, that as you look at the picture from our chopper now arriving at the scene, Jim Friedl in Hoboken said it appeared to bank sharply and smash directly, perhaps purposefully.
as well.
All right, Jim, thank you very much. Been talking to Jim Friedl, eyewitness who witnessed the crash from Hoboken. Thank you, Jim, very much for giving us what you saw and heard. Again, just a few minutes ago, apparently a large plane, according to... did you hear anything when it took place? Did you hear the crash?
Yes, I did. In terms of anything beforehand, though, no. I mean, I couldn't tell if the plane was in distress or anything like that, but certainly when it hit, there was a large explosion, and again, you had smoke and debris coming out the other side